Hey everybody, welcome back to City Sewers. So here's the thing, it's hot this week. This entire week is supposed to be breaking 100 degrees. So today the high is 108. So no thank you, I'll be inside. But since I'm inside, that means that I need to tackle the laundry beast. So I've been doing that, but I'm out of laundry soap. So now I've got to make another batch. That's right, make. So I actually make our laundry soap because it is significantly less expensive to make it at home versus buying it in the store. Because let's see, it's what, $1.5 gallons in one of those jugs, and they're $12 to $17. Like, it's a lot. Maybe even a 2-gallon jar. I don't know, it's been so long since I bought it. But so now what I have been doing is I actually will purchase a bar of laundry soap at the store, and then I mix it into a gel and I use that. So if you are interested in making some very inexpensive soap at home, here's what you're going to need. I use Zote soap. There is another brand, I'd have to look it up and I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember what it is, but Zote soap, this only costs like 97 cents for a bar of soap. And this is the pink Zote. So this has citronella in it, which marginally will kind of repel insects, which is handy. And I just like the smell, so I don't have to put anything in it. But they do make a white unscented soap, I believe. So if you are interested in getting the white unscented soap, that is also available. Borax. This stuff is not expensive. This is only $5 for this size box, and you only use a cup of it per batch. And I've only had to buy, I think, 2 boxes in the past 1.5 years that I've been making soap, and I think one of the boxes was lost in the meantime. So, like, you don't go through it that quick. But this is what's going to help bind your soap into a gel. So the borax helps, and it also has cleaning power in it. So we've got the Zote and the borax, a cheese grater. It's really handy to have one of these. If you don't, you can use a knife. It just may take a little longer to melt your soap. And if you have a food processor that has a grater on it, even more power to you, because that's even faster. I kind of like hand grating it myself, though. I just get a little sense of personal accomplishment when I watch that bar get smaller and smaller. But then I also have this paint stirring stick. Anything long enough to reach the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket will do. Because the last thing that we're going to need is a bucket. This is my soap bucket. It is specifically labeled to be used for laundry soap, because I don't want anything else in here mixing up with my soap. So, and then just to make life easier, it helps if you have one of these. This is just one of the big car oil funnels. So handy when you're bottling this stuff at the end. Because I've tried to do it with like a regular little kitchen funnel and had some very, very messy results. So those are basically the supplies that you're going to need for the making of the soap, besides hot water, which you can get from the tap. And then for storage, you can definitely use old milk jugs, because, you know, we used to buy milk all the time, and I started squirreling them away like a maniac. So I now have probably 20 gallons in my garage that are just empty milk jugs. You could also keep it in the bucket if you prefer, but it's a little cumbersome, so I prefer to keep it in the jugs because those are just easier to manage, because I can just pour it straight out of the jug instead of having to dip it. But to each their own. If you want to keep it in the bucket, you totally can. So let's get started on making some laundry soap, and we'll see just how fast and how easy it is. Step 1, open your Zote soap. Fortunately, it's got these little tabs that make it really easy to rip the bag. You just don't want it to explode. Anyway. Oh, it smells good. Okay, moving on. So in the next step, we're going to be grating the soap. I'm going to use a cheese grater. Now, it is going to be a lot easier to do this on the floor level. If you want to do it all the way up here, good for you. I don't. I'm going to move it to the floor. Cheese grater and my soap. grate away. Here we go. Okay, so now we've got plenty of soap on my hand, but now we've got one grated bar of soap. It doesn't need to be a super fine grate. This is just the fat side that I used on the cheese grater. If you want to grate it finer, that's fine. It'll probably melt faster, but I just went for the speed of grating. So at this point, what we need to do is actually melt the soap down. So what we're gonna do for that is we're just gonna add hot water, and I'm gonna put this actually in the sink. You know, I used to measure it because I was paranoid, and just the more I've done it, the easier it is to just eyeball it, and you kind of want to put around 1 gallon to 2 gallons of hot water in your bucket. Now, I just put the bucket directly into the sink because I have a sink that's deep enough to let me do that, but I have done it in the past where I filled a jug and did it like that, and you totally can. So now let's add our hot water. Now I'm going to put my bucket in the sink right here next to Mr. Rainbow. Mr. Rainbow over here is our lovely betta fish who is very social, so has to live right here in the kitchen so he can talk to me while I do dishes. So now we're going to add in our water. Now bear in mind, this is only about 1 to 2 gallons of hot water. It's foamed up quite a bit since then, just because of the force of the water. So it looks like the bucket is fuller than it is. This is only 1 or 2 gallons of hot water. Now there are some sources that will tell you to put the soap in a pot on the stove to melt it. It does not require boiling. Just hot water will do it. And just the hottest that your tap can get is usually plenty. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stir this because we want to get those soap shavings suspended in the hot water to help them melt faster. So I'm going to take my handy dandy paint stirring stick, and I'm just going to stir it until it feels smooth. I mean, I'm sure that you're not going to see every last little bit dissolving because of all the soap bubbles in here. But it should get smoother, and when you clear the bubbles away, you'll see like that there's some shavings floating around in there. So you can see them a little bit in here. But our goal at this point is to try and get a nice, smooth, even consistency because we want all that soap to be dissolved into the hot water. Now, if at the end of this you still have some little chunks of soap in it, it is not the end of the world. It's soap. It's going to wash your clothes still. It might be a little bit more concentrated than you were hoping for, but I'm like, it'll be fine, it's soap. Okay, now I have stirred this for 1 or 2 minutes, and I know that there's not every single little bit dissolved in here, but we're going to be adding more hot water, which I'm sure is eventually going to dissolve the rest of it, so I'm really not concerned. So, scrape our paint stick, put it there for now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in our borax. Now this is entirely optional. There are some people who don't want to have borax in their laundry soap, and that's fine. This can be used as just a melted soap. That's fine. I prefer a little bit more cleaning power just because I have children and a husband and everybody is sweaty and disgusting because it's summer and it's hot. So we're going to beef it up a little bit. So now we're going to take our borax and 1 measuring cup here. It's 1 cup. And we're going to pour this in. It doesn't have to be level. So now I'm going to start mixing this in, and we're going to add more hot water as we go here. Now I'm scraping the bubbles off the top so that I can kind of get a better feel for where the actual water level is. You can see it's still a couple inches down. So I think I'm going to fill this a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So this is mostly full. You don't want it all the way full to the very tippy top because then it's just cumbersome and messy. So this is my favorite tool. It really is. This is a paint stirring stick that you can get literally for free. Home Depot. Go to the paint section and just ask them for a long paint stirring stick. They just give them to you. It's great. Okay. Now, what's going to happen here is that we're going to let it coagulate. We're going to let that borax bind with the soap and make it into a gel. And this is actually going to take 24 hours. So we're going to let it sit and be at peace. And maybe move it out of the sink so that I can use it. But I have a big man for that. So I'm gonna ask David to come and move it out of the sink for me.
I'm not gonna take it personally that she called me big.
You're bigger than me.
Ah. But remember kids, lift with your back, not your legs.
All right, now at this point what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to cover this and let it sit overnight. So that is it for day one of making a bunch of laundry soap. That was pretty easy. It only took, what, like 5 minutes to get it from a bar of soap on the counter to a bucket on the floor. So we're gonna leave it actually in the house just because it's too hot. Temperature really does affect how quickly it will coagulate. If it's too hot out, you're just gonna end up with a liquid that doesn't really gel up. If it's too cold, then you're gonna wanna bottle it before 24 hours because it will coagulate too much and then you just have a giant solid. So it's probably what, 78 degrees in the house, so that's perfect. We're gonna let it sit overnight and I'm gonna sit on it. No. But now what we can do is, since it is so hot outside, is that we can make a slip and slide for the kids with a tarp and a hose, because slip and slides are expensive and tarps are reusable for other purposes. So we're gonna do that.
All right, so a little DIY fun thing you can do at home is when you want your kids to have something fun to do, make them a slip and slide. It's super easy. Literally, it's get a tarp. This is just a 10 by 20 blue medium grade tarp, and the kids love it. I'm about to let them know it's on, and they're gonna have a blast with it. All right, Kayla, let's see what you got. Woo! Going all the way from the neighbor's house. Over here, we just got a little lawn sprinkler so that keeps the whole thing pretty much wet. Nice.
All right, so now it's day 2 of our laundry soap project, and it's time to actually check on it and see how it's doing. Now this is sat completely alone for, it's actually been over 24 hours now, because life happens and sometimes you don't just get right on things right at the 24-hour mark. That's okay. This actually could be fine to be used as is. Like, you don't have to check on it and like be stressed about it. It's soap. It'll be fine. It's not gonna go bad. But now we're gonna check on it and see the texture and see if it's coagulated enough for what I want. So let's check on it. All right. The top looks nice and opaque. And if we move the edge, you can see it looks very solid now. Now, to make it easier to bottle, you can take your stirring stick and just make cuts all over it to kind of help break up that coagulation, just so that we can get it in the bottle. Okay. That is nice and thick, and it smells amazing. Nice and thick. All right, so now this soap is ready to be bottled. There's two ways that you can go with this. You can either keep it at this strength, which is going to be a little bit more concentrated, which you won't need as much soap per load, or you can dilute it 50% with water as you bottle it in the jugs, which is totally fine. That's what I have done in the past. I'm actually going to try not diluting it this time, just because I've noticed that I would like it to be a little bit stronger for the loads that I'm washing. But so what you're going to need to bottle it is you're going to need something to scoop it out with. I just use one of my glass measuring cups because it's got a nice handle and it's not going to bend on me. And a funnel, which we've expounded upon the virtues of the oil funnel. And your containers. Now these are just 3 of my older gallon jugs that I use for soap. This is only 3 of them. This batch will make more than 3 bottles worth, but I don't need to drag everything out all at once. I'm probably going to save some in the bucket. If you're going to dilute it, my recommendation would be fill this halfway with water first and then add your soap. Because if you add in the soap and then add in the water, even if you're pouring it gently through a funnel, you're going to end up with a lot of bubbles from the soap, and you'll end up with just a big mess. In the bottles, you still want to keep, I would say from personal experience, about 1 inch of headspace, because when it is diluted with water, that coagulated soap is not going to want to mix very well with the water. You're going to have to shake your bottle a few times. So leave a little bit of headspace. It's going to make your life easier, trust me. All right, now let's get bottling. My big recommendation is to do this on a floor that is okay with getting wet. I have made giant messes in this kitchen trying to bottle soap before because it spills sometimes. And I've had like bath towels everywhere here. Poor David. But don't do this over your carpet or your laminate floors that will get ruined. Chances are you are going to spill some of it. Just a little warning. My recommendation is to have the funnel like just leaning against the bucket, and it's going to make less space for you to have to cart your soap over. And it kind of helps support the bottle, especially when you're first getting going. I've had them give out and fall over on me, which is super fun. So now it is going to be a little gloppy. That's totally fine. And that's kind of why I recommend putting in water first if you're going to dilute it, because it's going to create some bubbles just from falling in anyway. If you're adding in water after it's already created bubbles, it's going to just make a giant mess. And it can take a little bit to get in there just because those big chunks. But you're just ladling it in as you go. One little trick about leaving this concentrated is that the borax is still at work in it and continuing to coagulate it, so it will get really thick. Don't be concerned if when you go to use it, it turns into a near solid and you can't quite get it out. I've had this happen. You can, if you have the headspace, remember I talked about headspace, I filled mine too full and couldn't shake it, so I had to use a chopstick. Just break it up. But if you leave a little bit of headspace so that you can shake it and break it up, that's a big benefit. Now, one trick that I have heard about but have not tried yet is to use an immersion blender to break it up and smooth it out. I'm not sure as to the efficacy of that, just because it's a blender in soap. You're gonna get soap bubbles like this high really fast. But I don't know, maybe we'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens. So there you have it. This is only 3 gallons. There's definitely more in here. I would say that a 5-gallon bucket holds probably just under 5 actual milk jugs. So you'll probably have a little bit of extra space in your last jug, but I think I'm okay with that. Because if we look at the cost of how much it was to make this, seriously. So we did some math. Borax, the box of 4 pounds cost $5. But we did the math on how much weight is put into each batch. So 1 cup, we weighed it on a measuring, on a food scale, and it was only like 5 ounces per batch. So we did the math, and $5 at 4 pounds, calculate that down into your price per ounce, and then you get, by 5 ounces in each batch, it's only going to be 40 cents in borax for each batch. And you know, however many batches you get out of that, it's pretty good spending. Now, the Zote soap was 98 cents per bar. If you round that up for tax, you get about $1. So to make this 5-gallon bucket, it cost $1.40 basically. Now, if we calculate the price per gallon for 5 gallons of soap, it's only 30 cents a gallon. If you decide to dilute it and get 10 gallons of soap, that's only going to be 15 cents a gallon. Like, compared to how much I used to spend when I was buying laundry detergent, it's a huge deal. Now, some of the bigger brands, we did a little bit of poking around. Granted, we didn't dig around super deep to find the best deals and the best sales, but we looked at some of the major brands like Tide and Arm & Hammer, and we also looked at the one that I used to get, which was Ecos at Costco. Now, Tide, depending on, they've got, you know, half a dozen different, oh, this one's for sensitive skin, this one's for whatever. They've got all their different types of laundry soap. They range anywhere from $13 to $23 per gallon of soap, which was like, $23 per gallon of soap was, we go through a lot of laundry soap because we got 3 kids, and we only just conquered the wetting the bed. And I was washing sheets at least like 2 or 3 times a week for a while. So that blew my mind. Now, Arm & Hammer soap ranged from $8 to $15 a gallon. And even the Costco soap, like Ecos, was still around $10 to $15 per gallon of soap. So it's a massive savings to just make it at home. And that was a big deal for me because, honestly, granted, for me it was a huge perk because the thing that really spurred me making my own soap was not a cost drive. It was more of an issue with my kids. Our daughter, Audrey, has had some issues with sensitive skin in the past, and she used to be itchy all the time. And it's really irritating if your laundry soap is something that you're sensitive to because it's everywhere. It's on your underwear, it's on your shirt, it's touching you all the time. And she itched all the time, and she ended up getting some really rough, patchy skin. It was not eczema, it was not like inflamed and irritated, but it did get very rough and bumpy, and I actually dubbed it dragon skin. Like, it was insane. This little like 3-year-old girl just had scales on her legs. I felt so bad for her. So I looked into some options on what I could do, and I could spend a fortune on getting like really high-end, designed for sensitive skin soap that was going to be loaded with yay more chemicals. I wanted to find a minimalistic recipe, something that would have fewer ingredients, fewer things that she had a chance to react to. This has only got 2 things in it besides water. It is made with a soap that I did purchase, yes, but it was still going to be significantly less than what you're looking at paying for a laundry soap. So I tried it, and you know, you give it a little bit of time because your very first wash is not going to wash all the residue out of your laundry from your old detergent. So I gave it a fair shot. We gave it a month, and her itching stopped, and it was hallelujah. She stopped itching, and I'm saving a boatload of money. So it was a big deal for us, and so we still do it to this day, and I don't think I'll ever go back to buying it, just because from an economic standpoint, it doesn't make sense to me to buy it if I can make it at home for 30 cents a gallon. Because seriously, that's all it took, was 30 cents of purchasing things plus maybe an accumulated half hour of my time. Like, that's really not bad. Another huge bonus for me is the fact that it does smell nice. I like the citronella smell. But my husband is David. You know him. He's very sensitive to fragrances. Like, I don't wear perfume because it can give him a migraine. And laundry soap can have the same effect on him. There are heavily perfumed laundry detergents like Tide. I can't stand the smell of it. Even after I've washed something. If a friend of mine has washed one of my kids' things, just to be nice, with the Tide, I can smell it 3 washes later with this stuff. Like, that tells you just how strong those chemicals are that you're putting on your skin. But it's just, people who are sensitive to smells would benefit from this because it's not overpowering. When your laundry comes out of the dryer, it has very little scent, which you can scent it yourself if you want to add essential oils into the soap. If you want to add them later on in the dryer, that's fine. I prefer to have very lightly scented to no scent in my laundry, and I get it, and I'm happy. I hope this how-to video was really helpful for you, that you can feel empowered to kind of take your own household into your own hands and just make your own laundry soap. Like, it's been a little bit contagious because now my mom makes it, and my sister makes it, and my mother-in-law makes it, because it is a huge financial savings. And seriously, people with sensitive skin, like my father, my children, it makes a big difference to them. And on the bright side, at the end of it, if you have some friends that are also out buying laundry soap, you can kind of have the bragging rights that, hey, look what I did. I did a real thing, and it only cost me 30 cents. And you can give it away, because that's how this all started, was I had 10 gallons of soap, and I started just, and you get a gallon of soap, and you get a gallon of soap. I felt like the soap fairy. But yeah, it's a huge deal. It's awesome. It's fun to share. It's fun to do. And it really didn't take that much time out of my day, because it took a few minutes on the first day, and then it's just sitting around patiently. I hope that this makes your laundry duties a little bit less awful. I know that the hardest part is not the washing of the laundry, but the folding of the laundry. So I don't have a hack for that, but I hope that the laundry soap makes a big difference in your lives as it has in ours, because it's one of our biggest successes that we've ever had, was making our own laundry soap. As always, this is your urban nerd with a goat herd telling you can grow and wash where you're planted. I can't help myself. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try using the immersion blender in what's left in the bucket here, because the stick will only go so far. So we're going to see how it goes, if it's going to make a giant mess or if it's going to actually work and make it really smooth. So we'll see. All right. Look at that! Not a giant tower of bubbles. Interesting. Well, I guess you should give it a shot.